Okay, so let's start today the introductory class on Mark 21. I tried every possible means for live streaming this class, but you see, for the last 2 days we are facing a tremendous connectivity problem for live streaming. Live streaming requires heavy bandwidth, and we presently don't have. So what I decided, as told, that I will be recording this class in live mode. Then I will be uploading this in some video archiving in YouTube in my channel, and then it will be linked with your Moodle, and the way you have accessed the other videos for your Unit 1 classes, the same process you can adapt it here, and it will be added with question answer forum, so that you can raise your or you can post your questions there and I can explain. So as you see, this is the Library of Congress MARC sites. You already know CCF, Common Communication Format. CCF is a standard bibliographic data format with two members. One is the CCF-B, another is CCF-F. CCF-B stands for CCF Bibliographic, and CCF-F stands for CCF Factual. So only two members were there. Now when we are actually discussing Mark 21, Mark 21 actually originated from LC MARC, then it became US MARC, then US MARC, CAN MARC of Canada, OS MARC of Australia, UK MARC of United Kingdom, all merged together in the year 1999, and right from that that became the de facto global standard for almost all the libraries of the world, and almost all the national libraries are supporting this format. So Mark 21 is a family of standards which nowadays considered as the de facto global standard for bibliographic data format. So as you already know, CCF, the basic part will be the same, but there will be little bit of differences that you need to know, and that we are going to discuss, and if possible I will try to show you something in live mode also in my machine. So first of all, that Mark 21 originated from the Mark II project in 1967. Then LC MARC actually developed from that project, Library of Congress MARC. Then with the initiative of the Library of Congress, it becomes soon the national MARC standard of United States and became US MARC. So LC MARC became US MARC. Then many other countries came with their own MARC. For example, Canada came with CAN MARC. Then Australia came with OS MARC. UK MARC you already know from United Kingdom. Even in India we have an Indian MARC called INDIMARC. So similarly there are MARC from China, FINMARC from Finland, and so on. So what happened, very quickly different countries came together to form different kind of MARCs on the basis of US MARC, and that actually went against the objective of a standard. Why do we have a standard? So there will be a global set of protocol, and every library will be followed that particular protocol. Now what happened with the MARC project? Every country came with their own MARC. Then the data export import, data interchange become a bit difficult. So all over the world, mainly four major national libraries like Library of Congress, then National Library of United Kingdom, Bibliothèque Nationale from France, then German, Australia, all came together, and they actually developed, including CAN MARC. Canada took a very a progressive role in the development of Mark 21 formats. So they came all together in the same platform and developed this Mark 21, MARC for 21st century, which is actually an integration of different national mark standards followed by major national libraries of the world. So we got Mark 21 in the year 1999, and then onwards it became global de facto standards for the last 20 years in managing bibliographic data by the libraries. So second important thing you need to know that MARC is a family of 5 coordinated standards. It's not that it's only Mark 21 bibliographic format or Mark 21 authority format. If you go through this, you can see that there are 5 MARC formats. Mark 21 bibliographic format, mostly libraries are using this one, and this is the major standard within the family. Then came the Mark 21 authority format, through which we manage different kind of name authority, subject authority, geographical name authority, event, chronology, etc. Through standard vocabulary control system. So that became Mark 21 authority data, and there is an harmony between the bibliographic and authority data to satisfy both the objectives of cataloging. So cataloging, if you go through the classical objective as set by Carter way back in so the objectives of Carter as set long back, so that if you go through it, you can find 2 major functions Carter proposed for to satisfy the objectives of the library. One is the finding function, that what a library has got on a given author, on a given title, on a given edition, on a given subject. So these are the finding functions. Other functions are collocative function, it should support collocation. So for example, one author, if represented by 10 different name variant, then you need to select one name from the name variants, and rest 9 names must be linked with that particular name with C reference. So that is called actually authority control, and that is actually very much required to support the second functionalities of a catalog, that is collocation. So to achieve collocation, you need Mark 21 authority format, and bibliographic and authority format must interact with each other in a harmonic way. So other 3 important formats which libraries generally do not use, but still you need to know. One is the holdings format to handle different kind of serial sorting. One is the classification format to handle class numbers different from different sources, different classification schemes. Another is the community information format. Your CCF factual we never learned, but we know that CCF family included CCF-F apart from CCF-B. So you can think that community information format of Mark 21 is basically is a reflection of CCF-F. What we do with this particular community information format? A public library especially sometimes handle day-to-day livelihood information for supporting rural information demand, county level information demand, etc. So that daily livelihood information related to the health, housing, finance, welfare projects, legal aids, then different kind of local directories, availability of the educational institutes, pathological clinics, the different kind of events happening in the community like blood donation camp, etc. All you can handle with this community information format, and very much relevant for public libraries. So when you will be in 4th semester, we offer a special papers on community information system and services. So there you need to learn what is community information format and how we can provide different kind of livelihood information people require for survival, for citizen action, So that kind of information we can provide through community or we can record through community information format. So meanwhile, in this semester, in the second semester, we need to learn the first two, that is the bibliographic and authority format. So what I am planning for this class, that first I will go for a a kind of PowerPoint presentation or slide presentation. Then I will be showing you, live mode of demonstration, how a MARC editor of a integrated library system or library automation software handle MARC data, and what are the difficulties, what are the advantages available with it. So let us start with the presentation. So I am now trying to load my presentation here. So this presentation I have given the name as on your MARC. Mainly it will be dealing with MARC 21 bibliographic format. In the next class the authority format and other things will be coming. So today this is basically an introductory class for you to interact with the MARC 21 bibliographic format. So here you can see, as I said, that the history I already told you, that MARC 1 project people undertook in 1965, then MARC 1 project, then in 1967 it became MARC 2 project, and then how from LC MARC to US MARC to MARC 21 format. So MARC 21 format is basically nowadays managed by Library of Congress. They have developed a separate office that is called NDMSO, National Network Development MARC Standard Office, NDMSO. So most of the library automation software, mainly we are going to learn Koha, but there are many other software like NewGenLib, Libsys, Sol. Then different kind of foreign origin software like Autolib, TechLib Plus, Basis Plus, then Virtua ILS, all are supporting MARC 21. In fact, most of the global and national library automation software supports MARC 21 bibliographic data format and authority data format. And if a particular automation software do not support MARC 21 bibliographic and authority format, people do not prescribe those software for running a library automation project. So this is the importance of MARC 21, and you need to learn it very carefully, because your half of your cataloging skills is actually depending on your knowledge on MARC 21. So MARC simply stands for machine readable cataloging. As I said, it started as US MARC in 1980s, and then become MARC 21 in late 90s, or rather 1999 to be specific. Then why it is called machine readable? Because when you are entering data in the card catalog, that is human readable. So you are never writing title is equal to Prolegomena to library classification, author is equal to Ranganathan SR. In this way you are not writing. You understand that if you present this particular card format, the first will come name or personal name or corporate name, then it will be followed by the title. Title will again be enclosed with the statement of responsibility, with each subsequent statement of responsibility. So that is meant for human readable entity. So your card catalog is a human readable entity, but this MARC 21 based catalog, when you are going to enter each of the record against a tag and subfield, you already know how to do that in CCF. Now if you enter, it will go to the software will index according to that. Suppose you have entered 100 main entity personal name, subfield A Ranganathan SR. So your system is going to index that Ranganathan under the head label main entity personal name, so that your user can search Ranganathan as author or Amartya Sen as author. So this is that's why we use the term machine readable. So this is not meant for human. It is not any human. It is not a human readable entity. whenever you are entering data in CCF format or MARC format, all are actually machine readable cataloging, because ultimately a machine is going to read that and it is going to index that, and then your user will be searching through your opaque online public access cataloging. Now, why a computer cannot read a simple card catalog? Suppose I am giving a card catalog as an input to the computer, and computer is reading in and storing information. Okay, we are not that advanced yet. So what we need to do? Suppose when you are entering or managing your card catalog, also you are following a data structure, underlying data structure. The underlying data structure is ISBD. ISBD, given your all kind of cataloging data, they divided into 8 areas. Then each area is again subdivided into number of sub areas. For example, TSOR area, there are title proper, alternative title, parallel title, statement of responsibility, each subsequent statement of responsibility. So these are all sub areas. So similarly, you are following that underlying structure when you are going for the print format of catalog or card catalog. Similarly, in case of computerized cataloging, you need to create a data structure, and according to that data structure you need to enter your different kind of entry elements, like as I said, main entity personal name, tag is 100, then there are 2 indicator position, then there is a subfield A, so you have to give subfield delimiter, you have to give subfield character. So here the subfield in MARC 21 we normally follow $sign. So you have seen when you have done with CCF, the subfield delimiter is basically @sign, then you have given subfield code in the form of capital A, capital B, capital C and so on. In case of MARC 21, the subfield delimiter is $, and all subfield codes are written in lowercase, that is lowercase a, lowercase b and so on. So it's a kind of signposting. You are giving data and posting it against a particular set of tags and subfields, and your computer is finally able to index it. So that's why the computerized cataloging does not mean that you are entering your card catalog data inside your computer and computer will understand it. It does not work like that. So you have to enter your data sets manually. So there are many content designators, as you know. These are the all kind of bibliographic data formats or authority data formats. Altogether the general umbrella term is called content designators, and the process is called content designation. That's why when you have answered those questions in CCF, you have seen I have written in the question heading that designate the contents on such and such thing. So the process is called content designation, and the format you are using is basically the content designator. So there are CCF B, CCF A, Unimarc, then latest is the MARC 21. Okay. So why we are using bibliographic data format? You already know the objective. There are 2 basic objectives. One is the consistency or uniformity, first one, and the second one is that the content exchange, so that one library can exchange data or interchange data to with other libraries. You can download, you can implement, you can go for your different kind of distributed cataloging. I will be coming what is distributed cataloging. So one is the uniformity, and second important thing is the exchange. That's why you are using content designator. And if you are using a content designator, it is always better to have a global de facto standard like MARC 21. So then the logical question may come to your mind, then why we have included common communication format in our syllabus, because directly we can jump into the MARC 21. The reason is that a common communication format followed a different kind of underlying architecture, which is, if you go by the database definition, if you go by the definition of a database, CCF theoretically is far better than MARC 21. Let me give you one example. You have already practiced in your semester 1 and so half of your semester 2, both DDC and CC. I am sure if I ask you that which one is the better classification scheme, you are going to tell me, okay sir, colon classification theoretically it is better than DTC. But you see, most of the libraries all over the world are not using CC, they are using DTC. Why? Because first reason set is that Indo-Arabic numeral, most of the users know this, and CCF colon classification is using a mixed based notation. That is possibly the main reason. But the second important reason is that there is a huge agency to support different editions or updating of DTC or UDC. But we don't have, unfortunately. India produced one of the best classification schemes so far available in the world, but we fail to dedicate an agency for updating classification schemes. And in case of knowledge is ever dynamic, if you do not update classification schemes regularly, that it become obsolete. So that is the reason. So that also happened with common communication format and Mark 21. Common communication format, from the database point of view, from the segmentation point of view, from the record to record linking, from the field to field linking, it is unique. It's far better than Mark 21. But common communication format, like your colon classification, was not fortunate to have a solid agency behind the progress of the scheme. But Mark 21 right from the beginning got almost all support from almost all national libraries, and possibly the biggest library of the world, the Library of Congress. So that's why people adopted Mark 21 like DTC, not CCF like colon classification. So to give you the flavor of both the world, both Mark 21, which is very popular, but according to database point of view slightly inferior, and common communication format, which is not so popular, but according to database point of view it's unique and far better than Mark 21. So that's why we have included CCF inside your syllabus. So I hope your doubt is clear. Now let us move to the next one. Content designator. If I ask you what is the definition of a content designator, so it's any standard bibliographic format with a set of codes and supported by a set of rules. So it will be giving you the record structure, the codes, the subfields, subfield delimiters, rules, how to encode that, everything when come together as a complete set that a library can follow. So that is called content designator. Examples I have already given to you, that your common communication format, your Unimark, your Mark 21, 5 different standards, all are content designators. So what it does actually, say for example, as I said, it is actually doing a signposting kind of thing. Say for example, in case of ISBD, what is happening? You write main entry, say this is the personal name, then you are writing TSOR area, so these are the area, title and person responsible, statement of responsibility, then edition statement. So you see, these are your ISBD is also acting as a signposting scheme. So it is giving you a area is again divided by sub areas, and you are entering data according to different sub areas, followed by the punctuation rules as given by ISBD and as adapted by ASER. Similarly, we are doing the same thing with the Mark, but in a different way. How signposting happened in case of a Mark or CCF? So we have fields. Fields are again having different kind of subfields, and subfields need to you enter data in subfields with punctuation marks. So this is a big difference between the CCF and Mark. You can remember that when you have entered data, there was no requirement for giving punctuation marks, but in case of Mark 21, when you are entering data in different subfields, you need to give ISBD based punctuation marks. I am going to show you examples also. So this is one point, important point you need to remember. Without your punctuation, without the punctuation marks, your mark record is incomplete, it is wrong. There are many reasons for it, but we will discuss the advantage and disadvantages of giving punctuation marks inside the record. I personally do not like it, but when you are following a standard, you need to follow in toto. Halfway you cannot follow a standard. So that is the mark 21 rules, that you have to give punctuations within the data. Okay, so another important point you need to remember when the topic related to punctuation schemes, I need to tell you that when you are giving punctuation marks inside your data, you please remember this golden rule. There will be a preceding space. There will be a preceding space for every punctuation symbol except comma and dot. So if you are providing, for example, if you are giving a forward slash like ISBD punctuation, you need to give one space before. If you are using semicolon as a punctuation marks, you need to give one space before. But when you are using comma or dot, you don't have to give space. So comma and dot, except comma and dot, every punctuation mark in ISBD must be preceded by a single space. Please remember this golden rule in case of mark 21 data entry. So as I said that how signposting works in ISBD, so similarly you see how signposting works in a mark 21 format. So this is, suppose you already know the concept of tag. Although in CCF we call this field, this 3-digit indicator. So this is called tag in mark 21. So 100, never say 100, never say 245. You need to say 100, 245, 250, and so on. So this is a common mistake we do. Just like your DDC number, you cannot say 657, you need to say 657. Similarly, in case of mark tag also, you please never say that 100, 245, 250 and something like that. Always say 100 and so on. So 100 tag in mark 21 is main entry personal name. So you see again the concept of indicator positions. So first indicator position value is 1 in your mark 21 format, standard format. I already distributed amongst you both the soft copy and the hard copy. So you can have that what are the values available for first indicator position. So here I am using first indicator position value 1. So that means I am rendering by the surname Arnosky and then followed by Jim. Now you see here comma is there. So Arnosky comma then space Jim dot. So you see here comma don't have any preceding space, your dot don't have any preceding space. Now come to the next one, 245. So this is title tag. So here the first indicator position 1, that means I want an added entry under title, and second indicator position 0, that means we do not want to exclude any character from indexing. So it will be indexed from right from the raccoons. Then it is followed by forward slash, and you see there is a preceding space. Then it is followed by the name of the author. So here you can see when you are using hash, that means the second indicator position of the tag 100 is blank. So when you are entering data inside your mark editor or inside your library automation software, if a particular indicator position is blank, do not enter blank. Just in pen and paper, to understand, to make you understand it is a blank thing, I have used the character hash. So hash means blank. You don't have to enter hash inside your mark 21 editor or library automation software. You have to keep it blank. So similarly, you can see 250 is a tag for addition area. So both the indicator position are blank. Subfield indicator delimiter is dollar and followed by the subfield code A. So subfield A is the first addition dot. 260 is publication distribution area. So it is divided into 3 subfields. So both indicator positions are blank. First subfield A, place of publication, then you see space colon. Then subfield B, name of the publisher. So you have to give name of the publisher, punctuation marks is comma. Then subfield C, year of publication 1987 dot. So you see here, so tag indicator position to both the indicator position, there are 2 indicator position, subfield. So if a field is divided into 3 subfields, subfield A, B, C, you have to write in this way. So this is I am representing marked data in pen and paper. I will be also showing you how you can enter data inside a library automation software. Similarly, it is followed by the physical description area 300. Then first one is the extent of item 25 pages. Then these are additional information related to your physical description. Color illustration is available. So these all rules are actually guided by the ISBD punctuations, ISBD abbreviation. What you have followed is here too, you can directly follow it here. Then the size or dimension came 26 centimeters dot. Then 520 is the summary note. So this is the summary note, and here you need to know, suppose you want to produce 2 lines. So you can repeat the field 520 subfield. In case of Mark 21, just like CCF, some tags or fields are repeatable, some are not repeatable, and some are mandatory, some are optional. The same way you have learned CCF, those are equally applicable to Mark 21. Then 650 tag is basically representing your subject access points. So if you are following here a standard vocabulary control system like Library of Congress, so second indicator position you have to give what standard codes are there in case in Mark 21 format. So you have to give that one in the second indicator position. Then you can give your subject heading. If you want to give more than one subject heading, so 650 is a repeatable field, you can repeat any number of times. So all 9xx fields, just like your CCF, all 9xx fields are non-marked fields. That means these are actually utilized by your library automation software for different kind of local level information. That means your barcode, price of the book, date of acquisition, from which fund you have purchased these, what is the home library for these books, how many copies are there, where these copies are available. So that information differ from one library to another library, but very important for the library which is cataloging that particular document. So all those library specific information like barcode, price, date of acquisition, funding, home library, then holding library, rack number, rack positions, stack positions, all are actually going in the 9xx field. So there is no hard and fast rule that what 9xx field you can utilize. You can utilize anything. Most of the cases library automation software give their own kind of this non-marked fields or local fields. So let us move again. How does a marked record looks like? So this is the complete marked records. Here you see in place of this some libraries are using dollar as a subfield delimiter, some libraries using null character or double pipe sign as a subfield delimiter. So these are the all fields available. 020 is the ISBN number. Then 020 this document has got 2 ISBN numbers. So there are 2 ISBN number repeated, you can see here. Then again you see 100 name of the author, it's a main entity personal name. Then you see here the second indicator position value is blank, so 1 blank. So you can utilize hash also when you are writing your answers for Mark 21. So 245, 250, 260 and so on. Now here you see 650. So there are 2 subject descriptor, one is the cataloging, another is the school libraries. Both you can repeat by the help of 650, which is meant for the subject access fields. So if we now go for one by one content designation way. So this is little bit of history of MARC. Let us do not better not to spend time on it. I already talked about it, different kind of formats. So MARC 21 structured. So MARC 21 is actually based on you see almost all this content designated are based on the structure given by the ISO 2709. So I already discussed what is ISO 2709 in class. So ISO 2709 is an international standard for data exchange. It has got 4 layers. It starts with the label, then comes the directory, then comes data, then comes separator. So all your content designators like CCF, Unimarc, MARC 21 all are actually based on ISO 2709. But interestingly, ISO 2709 actually originated from ANSI Z39.2. You already know or heard that about Z39.50. We are going to check how it works, but that is the most popular standard in the series of Z39. But I think most important standard is Z39.2. Later on, ISO adopted Z39.2 as it is basis and renamed as ISO 2709. So ANSI stands for American National Standard Institutes, and ISO stands for, I already told you that most of the cases there is a misconception that ISO means International Standard Organization, but in reality it came from the Greek term iso. Iso means similar. Isotope, isobar, isomar, all you have learnt in your science classes. So ISO means similar. So from there they took the term ISO. But popularly it is also called International Standards Organization. It is the global standards agency for the world. And I already discussed the role of a standard in the class. Again I am repeating the story. Suppose your mother asks you to buy a bulb. You go to the shopkeeper, electrical goods shop, then you ask that give me a 100-watt bulb, but you never cared that whether that 100-watt bulb or 60-watt bulb made by different companies, like it's made by Philips or Havells or X or Y or Z, but we never considered the size of the bulb, because I know every company, every watt will be matching with my holder. So who is determining this? So there is a manufacturing standard for the bulb and the holder. So bulb will have this kind of size, and your holder will be having this kind of size. Now you see, if a different company require different kind of holder size, bulb size, then you need different kind of holders also. So standard agencies are basically meant for making our life comfortable, so that each of the company who are producing this kind of goods, they should follow a particular standard so that there is no mismatching. Presently, if you are using 2-3 mobiles of different companies, you see presently there are n number of charger types. One charger is not fitting with of mobile of X company, is not fitting with the mobile of Y company. So that is the lack of standards is there. So in future, if there is a standard for the mobile charger, so one charger will be working for all sorts of mobile, right from your Apple phone or iPhone to your Redmi and many other things. So this is the concept of standard, and ANSI actually given us the first standard in the bibliographic domain and adapted by ISO 2709 later on. So as I said that your ISO 2709 format is followed by MARC 21. It is actually divided into 4 groups. In MARC 21, the label as proposed by ISO 2709 is renamed as leader, but leader and label are conceptually the same thing. This is how a MARC record looks when you export and import. So one record actually indicated in one row, although I have not represented in one row, but in reality one record indicates one row. Now suppose this particular record, it starts from here with the leader, followed by the directory, then the actual data content, Then comes the record separator. Again the next record starts with leader values. Leader is a 24 character fixed length field. Then directories, different kind of base size of the record, base address of the record, size of the record, then size of the subfields, number of subfields you have used, then followed by the data, and again followed by the separator. So in this way data are exported. When you get this data, you can import inside in your library automation software if it is ISO 2709 compliant. And most of the library automation software we are using in India and all over the world are basically ISO 2709 compatible. So the entire MARC record, if you see this particular slide, is basically grouped into different groups. So this kind of grouping is missing in case of CCF. That is one of the advantage of MARC 21. All related tags are grouped under the under a group of tags. For example, I am giving you example. So 0xx group, that means all tag which are starting with the 0. Leader is basically indicated by 000, 000, then 001, 005, 006, 007. Then comes 020 ISBN number, 082 DDC number, 080 UDC number. So these are all belong to the group called 0xx. xx is the variable, it will be starting with 0. Then come the 1xx, mainly main entries. According to MARC 21, there are only 4 types of main entries. 1xx is basically the group. 100 main entity personal name. Then 110 main entity corporate bodies. 111 main entry conference proceedings or meeting name. 130 main entry uniform title. So when you are getting a book, this is one way it is very advantages are helpful. So the moment you are getting a book, most of the cases the first and foremost job of a cataloger is to determine the access point. So if you know there can only be 4 types of access point in case of MARC. So either it's a personal main entity personal name, or a main entity corporate body, main entity meeting name, or main entry uniform title. Uniform title you already know, the sacred works like Bible, Quran, Gita, classics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Iliad, Odyssey, all are basically uniform title. Different variants of this one. You already appeared in examination for CCF also, like we given Vedas, Atharva Veda, then Vedas, Yajur Veda, Vedas, Rig Veda, etc. So these are called uniform titles and denoted by 130. Then comes the 2xx area. So all kind of title related issues. Your 245 is the title, 250 is edition area tag, 260 is publication distribution tag. You have already seen the example I have given in the earlier slide. Then 3xx is basically all your physical description fields. 4xx is related, mainly important thing is the 490 is related to your series statements. 6xx are basically subject access field. 650, 651 when you are using different kind of control vocabulary. 653 uncontrolled index term. So all kind of subject access points you can give in 6xx. Major fields are 6G50, 651, 653. But there is a difference between 650 and 653. 653 is basically uncontrolled index term. When you are giving terms from your mind, from your perception, from your experience, or by using any non-standard vocabulary control like subject dictionary, etc. So then it is called 653. But if you are taking the term from a recognized standard vocabulary devices as listed in MARC 21, like Library of Congress subject heading, MACE, different kind of thesauras, then you can utilize the subject descriptor field 650. 651 is basically geographic name heading, so on and so on. 7xx is basically meant for the added entities. There is a difference between CCF and Mark 21. In CCF you have seen that most all the persons associated with the documents we are cataloging, like author, like compiler, like translator, illustrator, photographer, all name goes to the field 300 along with the roll code. That means different roll codes are there, the roll code for the author, compiler, editor. So when you are writing a name, giving the roll code. Again you can repeat this for other names. So if a document is associated with the 15 names, so all 15s will go along with their roll codes inside your 300 tag, but that is not the case with Mark 21. Now suppose one of your book or document you are going to catalog is having 3 authors. So all are actually personal author. So the primary responsibility goes to, suppose the author, suppose XYZ, and the primary responsibility goes to X. So you have to select 100 main entity personal name for X. X is your primary author. 100 main entity personal name is not repeatable. You please remember this. Like your CCF, 100 is not repeatable. That means you cannot repeat 100 or 110 or 111 or 130. So no main entry access point tags 100, 110, 111, 130 are repeatable. You can write only one entry element there. So suppose what to do? So your XYZ 3 authors associated with the document. So X is your primary author. Suppose it is written in bold or it is written in the title page itself. You understand? So X is the primary author. So you write X in main entity personal name 100. So 2 remaining author Y and Z will be coming to 700 added entity personal name. So there is a liaison between 1xx and 7xx. So 100 is main entity personal name, 700 is added entity personal name, and 700 can be repeated. So Y and Z both can be accommodated inside 700. Similarly, 110 main entity corporate body, 710 added entity corporate body. So if a document is produced by more than 4 suppose 4 corporate bodies produced a particular document, so first one or the principal one will go to 110 and rest 3 will go to 710. As 710 is repeatable, you can accommodate n number of elements there. Same is the case with 111, 711, 130, 730. So it is very easy to remember. A kind of mnemonic feature is there, like your colon classification. So 1xx and 7xx are related. So 100, 700, 110, 710, 111, 711, 130, 730. Same comes 8xx series added entities. So suppose your series name will go to 490 under 4xx, and suppose that series is edited by a person or a corporate body. So their name, the name of the editor or as personal name or name of the editor as corporate body will come under 8xx. 8xx includes another important field. Nowadays it is very important, that is called 856 electronic access location. For example, your book is available in printed version in your library, but one of the supplementary part, or say let me give you a real life example. Say for example, one book available, textbook available in your library, you have catalogued it, and that textbook includes for each and every chapter a series of questions, and the answers are available from the publisher's website. So then you have to use electronic access location tag 856 to indicate either the full manifestation of the document, the entire book is available in PDF format, or part of it, like your answers sets are available from the publisher website. So you have to give that location, that URL, uniform resource locator, or FTP or HTTP inside your 856 tag. So nowadays it is very important. You can relate your metadata with the full text of your document through this 856 tag. And 9xx, as I said, reserved for different kind of local implementation. Local, suppose I have in my library I have a book, the same book you are having in your library, so all manifestations levels it will be same, right from leader field to 8xx, all will be same, but 9xx will be different. Accession number of that book in my library definitely is not going to match accession number of the same book in your library. My acquisition date may be different, your acquisition date will be different. Suppose I have bought hard copy, so my price is different, you brought one paperback, your price is different. Fund may be different, stack location may be different, home branch and holding branch may be different. So all these local level item of information or item of information related to your local manifestation are basically goes to 9xx area. Let me go to some real life examples. So when you are following Mark 21, you are following together physical and logical standards. So logical standards you are following ASCR2 alongside ISBD, because the moment you are following ASCR2, at the back end you are having ISBD. Then DDC you are following different other classification schemes, Library of Congress subject heading, Sears list, all are logical standards you are following. Then Mark is actually acting as a content designators, and in the physical standard you are following ISO 2709, which is actually originated from ANSI Z39.2. So all in case of computerized cataloging we are basically following three levels of standards: logical standards, your cataloging codes, your bibliographic data structure like ISBD, content designator, here CCF, Mark 21, Unimark may come, and physical standards, all your content designators are basically related to ISO 2709. And if you see manually, in manual cataloging also you are following the same three levels of standards. So when you are using a 5" into 3" card, that is your physical standard, so that you can exchange the cards from one library to another library. When you are following ISBD, that is your content designator there, all 8 areas. And logical standards you are again following your cataloging code, your classification schemes, your subject heading standards, all are basically related to the logical standards. So one way your manual cataloging and computerized cataloging is almost the same, all require 3 levels of standards, and but definitely the standards differ according to the objective of 2 different schools of cataloging. So the Mark 21 will be starting with the leader. Leader will be having 24 character, these are called fixed length field, so 24 character fixed length. Directory will be having 12 character, and this is also fixed length field. And different kind of other variable data field like your tag, the subfield, the data inside the subfield delimiter, your subfield code, all are variable data. So if you look into this structure, it says the what is the record structure of a Mark record. So a record structure, so Mark record having starting with the leader, followed by the directory, then having variable length field. The variable level fields again divided into 2 groups: variable control field, variable data field. And variable data field is again divided into 2 groups. One indicator position, there are 2 indicator positions in Mark 21 like CCF, and subfield codes. Then data elements are basically available inside your subfield codes. So this is the structure of Mark 21. Okay, so I hope a little bit of this thing Now let me try to show you that how it is happening in online environment. So I always prefer to work or prefer to show a theoretical manifestation in a practical, through a practical demonstration. So let me try to do that. Say you have not yet installed a library automation software, but definitely we are going to install it some point of time after lockdown. But you see, I have installed here Koha. We are all going to install Koha in our machines. So suppose this is one instance, I am entering inside Koha. So I am giving password. So this is my librarian interface of Koha. Let it come, and like any other library automation software, Koha has got two interfaces. One is opaque interface where your people can search, and another is staff client where you as a librarian can work. So this is the staff interface of Koha, and this is the online public access catalog or opaque of Koha. So let us try to very quickly add a book so that you can understand. So suppose I want to catalog a book. So these are the shortcut menu. You can click here or you can also click here. So I talked about Z39.50 some point before. So first I am going to show you distributed cataloging. So if I ask you as a cataloger, what is your first logical steps in cataloging? Some of you will say कि I will first read the book, I will determine the access points, I will determine the subject, I will try to find out all ISBD elements. No, your first logical step when you are cataloging a document is to check duplicate, whether your colleagues or your predecessors have already cataloged this document. If manual cart cataloging is available, you are browsing through the main entry, you are trying to find out. If it is available, you are simply writing down the accession number in the main entry. If you are following, if your library is having a library automation software, if you are searching that book by author, title or ISBN, then if you are finding, you are adding an item. So if it is not available, then you start cataloging, then technical reading, subject determination all comes thereafter. So first logical steps of cataloger is to check duplicate, whether this book is already cataloged by in my library. Now suppose if I can extend that particular object, first logical step globally. Previously we are thinking, if my colleague or my previous librarian is cataloged it, then I am not going to catalog it, I am just writing down the item information and adding a copy. But if I say you that if anyone of library throughout the world has already cataloged this document, then why should I? So this is Z39.50. It's a distributed copy cataloging protocol. Right from your local ILS, you can search the catalog data for that document globally through Z39.50 server. So it's a two-part standard. In your local ILS, you are having Z39.50 client, and in the global level, you are having Z39.50 server. You need to enter Z39.50 server details inside your local ILS, then you can search and you can adapt. So first you see how it works, then in the next class I will show you how to handle different kind of Z39.50 server, etc. So suppose I am in the cataloging mode, but this is the new record. If the document is not available, I can select this, I am going to catalog a book. Then the corresponding mark format will be loaded. I am going to catalog a serials, I am going to catalog a computer file. So all these different kind of formats are there that we can fine tune. So we will be coming to this thing next in the next class. So suppose first I am checking, say for example I am going to catalog here, let me search quickly whether this book is already available or not. Say a book written by Ian Wooten. So it will be searching my document and it is saying already I am having this book. So let us go for some book on, say, a book written by the recent book Origin say the name of the book is Origin. Suppose the document at my hand, so I am searching my local catalog. So it is saying these two books are not related. So suppose this book is not available in my library, so I am going to first check whether it is available globally. So what it is, it's a book. Now the moment I click book, it will open a window here. In this particular window you can see there are the Z39.50 servers I have added, Library of Congress SRU, Library of Congress Z39.50, etc. So suppose the title of the book is Origin and author is Brown, say Dan Brown. So I am writing Brown, or you can simply write Brown, the surname of the author. Now I am selecting, let us search Library of Congress, this book is available or not. Now if I click search, so from my local Z39.50 client will contact the Z39.50 server of Library of Congress. If this document available, it can snatch metadata for me. So it resulted something. So altogether 5 pages, so lot many documents actually available. So I am going to the next page. Still I am not finding my book, what I am searching. So again I can go to the next page. From the next page it will be coming from Library of Congress. You see how advanced nowadays distributed cataloging is. Now suppose I want this book, this Origin and Growth of Civil Liberty in Maryland, 1850. So all these are old books. Just for an example, I am selecting these books, or should we go to the next page? Okay, let's go to the next page. These are all old books having what I am searching. So let us have a current book so that I can show you. So in this way you can go on searching until and unless you are finding. If I can enter the title and author or better ISBN, then the searching will be much more specific. Now suppose I am utilizing this particular document. Say this is a new book. What do Jewish people think about Jesus? Brown, Michael L. Suppose I am having this book. So ISBN number, it's all matching. So what I can do here, you see, I can see the card view. So this is the ISBN view of this book. I can go for mark view. So this is the mark preview of the book. So all mark records are there. Then if I am satisfied that this is the book I am going, this is matching, so I can click import. So you see here entire mark 21 records will now be coming to my local Koha for editing. Okay, so you see here, let me increase the size. So these are the mark records, so 0, 1, 1xx, 2xx and so on. Let us start from the 0 because this record you cannot take as it is basis. So what you need to change, say suppose this 040, it is cataloging source. So you have to give your library a 5-letter code. For the time being you can use your roll number as a code. For example, suppose I am deleting this and using roll 99, so it becomes 6 code, 6-letter code. So it should be the 5-letter code. So you have to give a 5-letter code for your library. So I am repeating this. Then I need to check DDC number. So a book, you see here class number is there, edition is there, item code is not there, so you can give item code here. So how to determine the item code? Suppose I am following a very easy method. The author is Brown and the title is started with letter W, so I can give item code. This is not a standard process, please. So I am just showing you how can we do this item code. So I am giving item code, first 3 letter of the surname of the author and then forward slash first letter of the title. Then I can check 1xx, you see Brown comma Michael L dot comma, then date associated 1955 open entry, that means author is still living. Then 245, you see in 245, let me increase the size slightly. So in 245 you see this is the 245 tag, then indicator position, first indicator position 1, that means I need a added entry under the title, and this value is 0, that means number of characters excluded for sorting or indexing is 0. Why? Because it will be starting from here. Now suppose this is starting with this a what do Jews, although it is not meaning, but just I am trying to give you an example. So how many space we need to exclude? 1 space for a and 1 space for blank. So I need to write here 2. Number of characters excluded from sorting is 2. That means this particular book or the books which are starting with article A, that should not go to A during sorting. This should go to under W during sorting. Now suppose the title starting with the N. So how many space we need to exclude? A, N and space. So I need to write here 3. Now suppose the document is starting with the article the. So you already know what will be the value, THE 3, then space 4. So it should be 4. Okay, now you understand what it is 0, because the original title is basically not starting with any kind of article. So A, N and the, so sorting position should be 0. That means the right from the character 1 it should be sorted, and this will go under W. So then this is the title, this is the subtitle, and this is the statement of responsibility available with the author. Now you can see that your subtitle is ended with a forward slash here. So it is actually preceded by a single space. Similarly, if you come to 260, you see place of publication, then space colon, name of the publisher, comma without any preceding space, then copyright year C2007 2007 dot. Then if we go to 3xx field, you can see here extent of item, then both the indicator positions are blank here. You see when you are not giving indicator position like your 260, so this will be remain blank. You don't have to enter hash there. You have to write hash when you are answering in pen and paper. That is simple thing you have to remember. So pagination, size 4xx, there is no series, so no entry. 5xx, these are basically notes area, general note, bibliography note, formatted content note. Then 6xx you see, so they have utilized 600 subject identity personal name. The book deals with Jesus Christ, so Jesus Christ came as a subject. Then 650 you see Messianic Judaism. So this is the first repeatable field, first occurrence of the repeatable field 650. They have utilized another subject heading Judaism. So this is general subdivision, and this is the topical heading, subfield A and subfield X. So subfield A is Judaism, subdivision is history. 650, so n number of 650 they have utilized alongside 600, which is basically subject identity personal name. So 700, if there are additional authors, so there are none, so no 700 field is present. 8xx field, if it is a series, and you see in the 856 what I was talking about, the 856 electronic location and access. So it says the table of content available electronically, and this is the URL. So it is available from the CADDIT service of, that is a table of content service of Library of Congress. There. So all 000 to 8xx scheme, I have to enter 9xx field. So again I am slightly minimizing it. So this is not meant anything, I am deleting this. In case of my local library, I have to tell that I am using DDC number, Dewey Decimal Classification, and what is the item type, whether it's a book or containing resource, that is already defined in my ILS. So it's a book, so I am selecting books is the category of document. Then this is also I am not required, it is actually additional information, so I am closing this or deleting this. Now suppose I have got 2 copies of this book, so what to say, how to save it? If I click, this book is on Judaism, please remember, because we need to search in OPAC also. So suppose I am going save and edit item, suppose I have 2 copies of this book. So now I am adding copy related information. What is this copy related information? So here you see I am adding the information related to first copy. Say in which library it is available. So it is available, I have defined my library as library 1. So suppose it is available in Birbhum District Library. So current location is also Birbhum District Library. Where it is shelved, suppose it is shelved in book cart. Then date of acquire, I am clicking, it can take the current book. So I am giving all copy or item related information, it will differ from library to library. So now this is the class number and then barcode or accession number. So I am giving barcode as 23456. So this is the first copy, copy 1. Then this is a book. Now add and duplicate, because I have another copy. So I am clicking add and duplicate. So first copy added in my local Koha. So you see first copy added. So these are the copy related information, all information I have given. So I have another copy, as I said, key add and duplicate. So it's almost everything duplicated, because all will be same, only this will be changed. Accession number, definitely this book will be having a separate accession number, and this is the copy 2. So these 2 copies I am having. So everything, when you have entered all copy related information, I can click add item. So now you see within 2 minutes I cataloged a book available in my library. This is the standard validated MARC records I obtained from Z39.50, and 2 copies I have added. Now the moment I have added this copy, you see, so this is the term Jewish people. Now suppose I am copying this particular term. Now I am going to my OPAC. So this is the OPAC. I hope you can see this. Now suppose one of my user is searching by Jewish. So if I click go, you see this Koha is very powerful. It can immediately index the documents you have added. It can readily index. It's a real time cataloging in Koha. So if everything is going well, you can now see it is showing me the book. I linked my local Koha with Amazon. It can fetch cover page image of this book from Amazon. Then if I go down, it can show me all table of content data alongside the number of copies I am having. So these are the 2 copies, Birbhum District Library, book cart, both copies are available. And if I again issue this particular book to any of the users, it will be automatically showing in the OPAC. So this is checked out and this is the due date. So this is all for today. We'll explore many other things of Mark 21. I hope you can now relate the theoretical side of the Mark 21 with the practical side of computerized cataloging as I demonstrated. So next day I will be going to show you original cataloging. Suppose all books won't be available through Z39.50, particularly your regional documents published in India, locally available documents without ISBN number. So there we need to go for original Mark 21 cataloging. That's why we need to know Mark 21, and also we need to know Mark 21 because all Z39.50 data coming from different servers are not equally good. We need to check whether punctuations are there, whether access points is right or not. If you do not know Mark, then we cannot do it. So okay, thank you very much. See you in the next class.